Hello, good people of YouTube, Mountbatten here, and today we're going to be going over what I see as 5 really underrated premium ships in the game. 4 of these premium ships you can still obtain. The other one, not so much, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Anyway, before we get going, just a reminder, I do have a Patreon set up. If you wish to support the channel, please check out that link, which is in the description down below. So when I say underrated premium ships, I mean that these ships are, in most cases, they're not as bad as people make them out to be. And for all these ships, I would say, yeah, they're probably worth picking up if you're interested in them or interested in the way that they play, which we will go over when we get to each one. But they're not like over the top amazing or anything, but they're just really solid ships that for some reason, in my opinion at least, a lot of people get them wrong when they talk about them, or maybe they just had a couple of bad experiences in them. And these ships are, in my opinion, again, pretty solid ships. So anyway, let's go ahead and get going. So number 5, we have the Tier 6 Premium Japanese battleship, the Mutsu. So the Mutsu is actually a really fun ship to play. The Mutsu has 16-inch guns, 410mm Japanese guns, down at Tier 6, but the payoff is that they use a World War I shell and not the World War II shell. So these 16-inch guns have really good pin at close range, but the further you go out, the less pin they get. So while she does have a pretty good maximum range with her spotter plane, the pins aren't fantastic at that long range, but close in, she's a really good ship. And she has a lot of secondaries too. Now, I'm not saying that this is a secondary battleship, but she's got, you know, those dreadnought style battleships where they're just bristling with secondaries. She's got plenty of them. And I threw a full secondary build on her just for the giggles. And I've actually death struck a full health Tier 5 destroyer, I think it was a Nicholas, with these secondaries. No shots from the main battery guns, just full on secondaries. Just, man, they opened up and they wiped them out. It's pretty entertaining to see. And she also has 4 torpedoes on top of that. Yes, 4, not 4 sets, but 4 torpedoes. She has 4 single launcher torpedoes, 2 per side, that reload in 20 seconds. So while you can't throw a whole wall of torpedoes at your enemy, you do have 2 up your sleeve on both sides in case you get into a brawling situation. And they are quite nice torpedoes, and they do pack a punch, and it's quite funny because this ship's been out for quite some time, and I don't think newer players understand that she has torpedoes, so they'll get in close to her, and then you'll let the torpedoes rip, and they'll be extremely shocked when they get slammed by these 2 torpedoes. So she's a really unique ship. She's a fun ship to play, and Tier 6 is still pretty decent. Only when you get those double carrier games is Tier 6 really suckish, but she's a fun ship to play. I enjoy playing her, and I do recommend that you guys go out and pick her up if you're thinking about it. Alright, going on down to number 4, we have the Tier 7 Premium Soviet battleship, the Poltava. So the Poltava, first off, this ship's actually quite long. It's the same, or very close to the same length as the Iowa. She is, well, the best way to describe her is that she's a Tier 7 Soviet Roma. But she's a little bit better, because she's Tier 7 for starters. And she has 14-inch guns instead of 15-inch guns. And you might be thinking, well, why is that an upside? The upside of that is that they're smaller, so they overpin cruisers a little bit less than the Roma's guns. Because she still does have very good velocity on these guns. And again, this version is kind of the same as the Roma. And she is also very well armored for her tier, just like the Roma. And this is a pretty tough ship for Tier 7. I mean, obviously, you know, you're still getting overmatched by Tier 9 ships if you get up to Tier 9 and some Tier 8 ships. But she's pretty tough. If you angle correctly, you can bounce just about anything you can meet. Unless you get like a Musashi on the enemy team, then you're just kind of boned at that point. But she plays, again, very similar to the Roma. You got to get in close. You got to go for those broadsides on the battleships. And like I said, she's a little bit better than Roma. She's got a faster reload than Roma. She has a 28-second base reload time. So throw Adrenaline Rush on there, and you'll be doing quite fine in the Poltava. And then also you can get the special Soviet commander Kuznetsov, and he really helps out the ship with its survivability because you get his, you know, skill. Well, he just refuses to die after he takes 90% damage, so that's very lovely too. And the ship, it's I don't know, it got released and no one really talked about it. But if you like the Roma, you like the Poltava because for its tier, I do believe it is better than the Roma. Now, of course, when you get up to tier 9, it does suck a bit because now you only have 14-inch guns and you got to kind of HE spam. But again, the Roma's kind of in that same situation too. You know, you're at tier 8, you get up to tier 10, you can't hit anything at range. You're gonna have 15-inch guns that, you know, when you're fighting tier 10 ships, that's not that big of a threat to them. And on top of that, you can't even hit anything. But if you get in close with both the Roma and the Poltava, you will slap the ever-living crap out of their broadsides. And again, it's a fun ship to play. And it's a tier 7 too, so it's not that expensive. It's not, you know, a $50 tier 8 premium ship. But again, you know, if you like that type of playstyle, if you like the Roma, you will like the Poltava. Alright, going on down to number 3. We have the tier 8 premium German heavy cruiser, the Prinz Eugen. So the Prinz Eugen it's a hipper. It's a hipper. It's a hipper with a hill and slightly less DPM and more AA. So, I mean, hipper, one of the main complaints about hipper is that she eats all these really random pins, so Prinz Eugen solves that by getting a heal. Now, of course, if you get citadeled, you know, that's going to suck either way, but at least you can heal some of it back with the heal on the Prinz Eugen. And she does have a 2-second longer base reload time than the hipper, but, I mean, still, she gets German HE, German AP, which is really, really good. You get torpedoes, you get hydroacoustic search, you get the spotter plane, you get the German HE pinch, so you literally get everything in the German toolbox in one cruiser. And like I said, it gets a heal on top of all that. So it's a pretty comfortable cruiser to play for newer cruiser players. This is actually where I started to play cruisers. I bought what bundle was it? It was like the Alabama, the Prinz Eugen, and some random Japanese DD. I bought that bundle back in the day. And I got the Prinz Eugen. I started to play the Prinz Eugen, and the Prinz Eugen got me interested in cruisers. So naturally I grinded up the German cruiser line, and then boom, got the hipper. So it's a little bit of a special ship to me because it got me into cruisers, but it is a fun ship to play. And you know, if you're used to playing heavy cruisers, you know exactly what to expect from the Prinz Eugen. And she is a little tanky if you do know how to angle properly, but again, it is a hipper hull, so it does eat those really random citadels through the stern a lot, which is annoying, don't get me wrong, but she's a solid ship to play. She has really good AA, believe it or not, and in this day and age, that is saying a lot. Not that, you know, it's going to shoot down every single plane in a squadron, but carriers, unless it's like a tier 10 carrier, they will pay for attacking you. In most cases, again, unless something like the Richthofen or like a really good tier 10 CV, they will pay for attacking you. You will take a good chunk of their planes with them. And of course, you have a fighter plane on top of that. So again, it's a cruiser that just gets like every single German gimmick in the book. So it's a fun cruiser to play, and I would recommend you pick it up if you have the chance to. Alright, moving on down to number 2, we have the Azuma. So the Azuma, which is a tier 9 Japanese super cruiser, premium ship, of course. The Azuma has a bit of an interesting history, being that it was originally supposed to be what the Yoshino is, but for some reason, Wargaming copied the Yoshino, removed its torps, removed some of its armor, made the guns a little less accurate, and now we have the Azuma. Oh, and removed some of the AA as well. So, yeah, the Azuma is in a weird position that it literally has a twin that's just slightly different, but it's still a pretty good ship because the guns are still really good. And, you know, the Yoshino is just the Azuma with better guns, torpedoes, AA, and yeah, so it's like, why get the Azuma? Well, the Azuma is the better credit and XP farmer because it's a tier 9 ship, which means you can still get up tiered to tier 10 gains. And when you get up tiered, you get a boost to your economy. When you're doing damage to ships that are of one tier higher than you get, I think it's 1.25% more. I'm sorry, 1.25 times more XP and credits than if you're attacking a ship of the same tier. And if you get double up tiered, I believe it's like 1.50 times more. So you get that boost. So if you want to grind credits and XP to your maximum potential, Azuma is the better boat between the Yoshino and the Azuma. Now, I'm not saying, you know, it's better mechanic-wise, just for farming purposes, the Azuma is better. And the Azuma's guns are really, 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 really good. They are Japanese 13-inch guns with Japanese cruiser HE. If you played the Zal, you know that Japanese cruiser HE is no slouch. It's up there with British heavy cruiser and I would say almost British BB HE levels of crazy. It doesn't have the insane like ripping ability of the British BB HE where, you know, we can eat one salvo from a Conqueror and now half of your AA is gone, but it's still very powerful. It has fantastic HE alpha. The fire chance is of course very, very, very good, and if you put Demolition Expert on there and flags on there, you can get it even higher. And it's so easy to do well over 100,000 damage with the Azuma. Now the downside to the Azuma is of course that it's incredibly easy to Citadel, and it's just not the Yoshino in terms of utility with the torpedoes and the AA and the better armor. And it's, I mean, in my opinion, it's a pretty darn good ship. And it is available for free XP. And the Yoshino's available for coal too, so it's not like it's the easier option to get, it's just a different method. But it's a pretty good ship in my opinion. It gets dumped on a lot because it's simply not the Yoshino, but it is still a fairly strong ship and a good farmer at that. Alright, moving on down now to number 1. That is the Tier 8 Premium German battleship, the Oden. So the Oden got a really bad reputation for a ship that was just nerfed into the ground before it came out. And of course the ship isn't available anymore. It came out in the Research Bureau, but not the Research Bureau, the dockyard. But if this ship ever comes back, which, you know, I don't see them releasing a Tier 8 premium ship. Like, you know, the Puerto Rico I get, it's a Tier 10 premium ship. It was a one-time dockyard event, I understand that. But like the Oden, I don't see them making this ship for this one event and then just never releasing it again. I mean, you know, some people would say, you know, I spent the money on going to the dockyard event and it shouldn't come out again. I understand that, but Wargaming is looking at it as we spent all this time and money, you know, making the ship. You know, I don't think they would make a ton of money just from one dockyard event that not a lot of people partook in the first place. But anyway, the Oden, you know, she got a lot of nerfs. Biggest nerf that a lot of her detractors would point out is that her HP got nerfed down to about Tier 5 battleship levels of HP. Yes, it did, but the armor on the Oden is so darn good. It's got a full icebreaker bow, it's got a 90mm stern, it's got German turtleback armor in the central bits, so it's a really, really tough battleship. And if you angle properly, you don't take a lot of damage, plus the deck armor is quite good as well. And she has a 22-second reload on her guns, and I get they're not very large battleship guns, they're really super cruiser guns. And she has fantastic secondaries. They can get out to about 11.6 kilometers with a full build, and they can all pin 32mm of armor. So if you play that properly, you can get a ton of damage right there. And she gets torpedoes on top of that, and a fighter plane, and hydroacoustic search, and heals. So yeah, just like the Prince Eugen, this is another German ship that gets just about every single tool in the German toolbox. So she's got all that going for her, and in my opinion, she's a fantastic ship. Now, is she better than something like the Tirpitz? I wouldn't say so, because you play Oden more like a super cruiser that can brawl, rather than like a German battleship like the Tirpitz, because yeah, at the end of the day, it doesn't have the HP that the Tirpitz does. So between things like torpedo hits, flooding, fires, and CV attacks, yeah, you at a disadvantage if you play it like a battleship. But if you play it like a super cruiser, it's much, much, much better. And don't get me wrong, it can do battleship things. Tirpitz is going to try and flex on us, but we shall in turn flex upon him.
Attention, reporting the target position.
Too soon, Junior. Too soon, Junior.
The ship is on fire.
Ah, too close, too close. That was smart.
fire.
We've destroyed an enemy battleship.
Took out 2 Terps and 1 Oden. Ah. There we go, boys. Took out 2 Turpits. Everyone says so much better than this ship. With 1 Oden. So, yeah, it's a pretty darn solid ship. I have a lot of fun with it. And most of the other people that I know that have it have a lot of fun with it, too. It just got a bad rap for the nerfs to it and to the last minute changes to the guns where they increased the reload time of the main battery guns by 2 seconds, but they also increased the range and decreased the reload of the secondaries. So, you know, the ship's been through a lot, just has that bad reputation, but in my opinion is nowhere near as bad as what people make it out to be, and is underrated. So again, if Oden ever shows back up in the shop, I would most definitely recommend picking her up. Anyway guys, that's all I got for you today. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. What are your underrated ships? Or ships that you think get unnecessarily dumped on by the community? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you drop a like and subscribe to the channel. We are on our way to 20,000 subs. We just passed 18K a few days ago, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. And again, if you want to support the channel, check out the Patreon. Link is in the description down below. Hope you're all having a wonderful Monday, and hope to catch you guys in the next one.